This is quickly becoming my favorite hour, and you're about to see why. Our next guest is well known for his role in the CBS drama Madam Secretary, great show, and The Sopranos, another great show. He's also the president of the Creative Coalition. Joining me right now is in the studio is the actor and producer, Tim Daly. Tim, very nice to meet you.
So nice
Welcome
to meet
in.
you. Thank you.
We could go on and on with your acting career list. I mean, you know, we just go all the way back to Wings, I guess.
Well, if you get old enough, you know there's a lot there, and you are lucky enough to hang on by your fingernails. So I'm going to keep going as long as I can. Hopefully that list will keep growing.
Well, people know you from this incredible acting career, but you're also very involved in the nonprofit world. You're the president of the Creative Coalition. So tell me a little bit about that organization and its mission.
Well, the Creative Coalition is primarily an arts advocacy organization, and our mission is to protect, promote, and defend the arts in the United States, and particularly arts education. And it's our belief that every person, every child is born with this incredible gift of an imagination and creativity, and that is like a muscle that needs to be exercised. And unfortunately, all too often, that muscle does not continue to get the workout that it needs in school. So it's our mission to make sure that children get arts in school so that their imaginations stay active. And this is not an organization that supports artists necessarily, but we believe that if human beings have an active imagination, they will do things like become more imaginative scientists and engineers that will help us solve the climate crisis. So that is what we do. We also use the power of our membership to shine light on issues of social importance, such as this.
So there are a lot of actors in the world. Some of these celebrities do get involved in activism. Can you tell me why that's important? Why is it important for someone who is in the public eye all the time to actually get out there and take a stand on social issues?
Well, I can't speak for anyone else, but I know that in my life I'd reached a point where I had a very successful career, I'd made some money, I had a beautiful family. Everything in my life was wonderful, and I thought that I would be risking getting, some very bad karma if I didn't do something to give back. And when I found the Creative Coalition, I found a place where I felt that I had some expertise and some gravitas because I had been an artist my whole life. So arts advocacy has become my passion.
Now, social media has become a really powerful tool, and it's a way for people to reach out there into communities and to fans. Is it important for celebrities to be in social media right now? And if so, how would you tell them to use it?
Well, I would probably tell a lot of them not to use it because it gets a lot of people in trouble, and I think that you have to be very judicious about how you use it because there's no filter between you and your thumb, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning, as we've seen in various areas of our society right now. But I think that for me, if I'm going to use it, it's going to be to simply raise awareness about things that are important to me. I don't expect anyone to necessarily listen to me more than anyone else, but I think the ratio of people that know what they're talking about and have a measured, intelligent take on what they're trying to say is about the same in any profession, whether you're a politician or an actor or a lawyer or a doctor or a truck driver. So it's, I think, imperative that as you consume social media as a member of the public, that you have some judicious and thoughtful weeding out of things that are not true or not helpful. And
let's kind of bring it into the climate crisis and talking about environment as well. What's the best way to get a message across? You're a major star. Well, how do you get these ideas across to people?
This is part of what we do in the Creative Coalition. Besides our mission to keep people's imaginations alive, we also know and understand that if you tell a story about something that is a pressing issue or a crisis like this climate crisis, and can put it into an emotional context, you'll be much more likely to get some traction and to motivate people to take action than if you give them a chart or a graph. I think most people are that way. If we know the stories of the people in Houston and Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands and the story of people who have been affected by the climate crisis, I think that it will be a call to action and it will motivate people to become involved as citizens and in groups.
And I guess it's also simply the pure numbers, because when you make a statement, you have so many followers, people who are listening. So you can take a situation like Puerto Rico or like Houston, you can talk about it, and you get a huge audience.
Yes, and I think that in some ways it's a grave responsibility, because you know that you might be reaching a lot of people. But in other ways, it's something that is called for, especially in times of crisis. I think that the climate crisis in particular is something like the other big crises that we know about, that needs to be attacked from every angle, from the top down, the bottom up, and the sides in. So the more awareness that you can create about what's happening, I think the more activism you'll see, and the more people will understand that this is something that is not totally hopeless, something that they can affect, and something that is important for them, their children, and their grandchildren to be involved with.
Now, you've not shied away from getting involved politically as well. Can you tell us about that, and how you feel being political can bring about change, really?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a very strange time politically, I think, and the mantra that I keep telling myself right now at this moment, and I would like to tell a lot of my friends, is don't become the thing you hate. Because I feel that a lot of people are getting into a place where no one is listening. And certainly if we listen to each other, it's the only way we're going to solve any of our problems. I think about, speaking of global crises, where we think that mankind is going to come to an end. There's World War II, right? And I remember my parents telling me about, my father was in the Navy, so he was fighting in the war. So was his sister, his brother, his other sister. My mother and her family were knitting scarves and saving pieces of aluminum foil. There was a concerted effort from the smallest thing to the largest thing to save the world from this crisis.
You're right.
And I think that if all of us do whatever we can, whether it's saving a piece of tinfoil or recycling a coffee cup, to making political policy, to making corporate policy, we all need to chip in and deal with this. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves in a crisis that is way worse than it already is.
You just did a light bulb thing for me. I think that's one of the best analogies. You're right. This country pulled together in that time of war. Everybody was working on solving that problem, and we could certainly do that today.
I think we could. Another example is, I did a mini-series years ago called From the Earth to the Moon about the Apollo space program, right? And this was about getting a man on the moon, when the entire scientific community of the United States was focused on this one problem. And we had a guy who was our technical advisor, a guy named Dave Scott, who was the guy that drove the little dune buggy on the moon. And he was so interesting to me. That part of the reason I got involved with the Creative Coalition, he said to me, and he was this sort of dry Midwestern guy who had been a fighter pilot, was kind of a heroic guy, and he would say things like, yeah, we were concerned when we realized we were 5 or 6 seconds away from reaching our biological limitations. And I was like, Dave, you mean dying? He's like, yeah, we don't like to say dying. Anyway, he said, I think it's imperative that we send artists to the moon. And I said, why, Dave? And he said, because I know how profound a feeling it was, but I don't know how to express it so that millions of people can understand that profound feeling that I got. He said, I would love it if writers and actors and painters would go and be able to express this thing that I felt.
Hour 24, and you've just done one of the best interviews I've had all day, because I tell you, you've just given me new energy, and I can't imagine what it's meant to the folks who are watching.
Well,
Tim Daly, thank you very much.
Thank you,
I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure and very nice to meet you.
Thank
Although
you very
I've
much.
watched so much of you, I feel like I know you. Let's head back over to Caleb Worthy and see what you've been saying while we